Greetings fellow Whovians and welcome to Timey Wimey Review. Before I start this video proper, I just wanted to say that this is dedicated to an all-round entertainer, Paul O'Grady, who sadly passed away last week. He was, like I said, an all-round entertainer in the UK. He was a game show host, a chat show host, an actor, contributed to Big Finish Audio, but importantly was such a pioneer for the LGBTQ community, as his alter ego Lily Savage, stand-up comedian, a very funny entertainer all round, and it was such a huge shock to find out that he passed away last week. Thoughts and prayers to his family, and this video is dedicated to that fantastic entertainer. Again, welcome and welcome to a new edition of Doctor Who Best and Worst Cliffhangers, where I look at various Doctor Who cliffhangers from its near 60-year history, and I either give it a good cliffhanger or it's a bad cliffhanger. Simple as that. So please hit the subscribe button, it will really help out this channel. This is the Doctor Who Best and Worst Cliffhangers video, Volume 3. And I wanted to start off this volume by talking about Doctor Who Flux. Now, say what you will about the season overall. Some of you love it, some of you hate it, and some of you are in between. Absolutely fine. But you can't deny that there was a fantastic moment or cliffhanger from Chapter 4 of Doctor Who Flux, Village of the Angels. This episode led to one massive trap for the Doctor, where the division have basically recalled the Doctor back into their services by transforming her into a weeping angel. Visually, this cliffhanger is absolutely stunning as we see the Doctor turning into a weeping angel from the ground up. And if this was a post-Watershed episode of Doctor Who, I think they could have really ramped up how painful this transformation would have been, especially with her growing wings out of her back. Obviously, you couldn't really do that for a younger audience. That would have been a bit too harrowing. But yeah, seeing the Doctor turning into a statue before her eyes with that sort of covering her hands over her face, like the statues do of the weeping angels of old. Yeah, this was one of those, how is the Doctor going to get out of this moment? It's something that I was never even thought of, the Doctor being turned into a weeping angel. But visually we got that, and say what you will about Doctor Who Flux, whether you like it or whether you don't. This was a fantastic cliffhanger. It's a great cliffhanger. This volume of Best and Worst Cliffhangers is going to be a little bit Fourth Doctor heavy, because there's quite a few that I wanted to talk about for quite some time. Starting off with the ending to part 1 of the Leisure Hive. Now, if you haven't seen it, basically the Fourth Doctor enters in this weird virtual reality room, and the final visual shots that you see is basically Romana going, "Doctor, someone has sabotaged this virtual reality room," and you literally see, I kid you not, the Fourth Doctor's arms and legs and heads basically ripped out of their sockets. The Sting music hit, and you just see Tom Baker screaming out, face flying into the camera, flying onto your screens. That was your final moment from that episode before the credits roll up. And yeah, that is a freaky episode, a freaky cliffhanger to leave your audience on. Yeah, I would love to know in the comments what your thoughts from watching this cliffhanger for the very first time. Maybe when you watched it back in 1980, or even watching it more recently on DVD or on BritBox. If you haven't seen it, you can easily find it on YouTube as well. I do applaud you, check it out. I don't think it's a cliffhanger that really doesn't get talked about that much, but I love it. It is freaky, it is scary, it's a good cliffhanger. Sticking with the Fourth Doctor era, recently I reviewed the story The Deadly Assassin, and something that I did leave out in that review because I wanted to talk about it here were the cliffhangers, particularly 2 cliffhangers. Starting off with the ending to part 2, where the Fourth Doctor has entered the Matrix. This again, this otherworldly dimension in sort of Gallifrey that records all knowledge of all Time Lords and basically distorts a Time Lord's reality. So the Doctor's entered it, and yeah, he's basically in all sorts of trouble. We do get the Doctor entering the Matrix quite a few times in Doctor Who's history. In the 80s, the Sixth Doctor did that in the Trial of the Time Lord season, and most recently in the episode of the Time Lord, the Timeless Children, the 13th Doctor enters the Matrix. Back to this story, and the Fourth Doctor gets his foot trapped on a railway line between like a cross point on the railway, and you see or hear this train coming, and he's gonna get pummeled by this train if he doesn't get out of there quick enough. So on paper, that sounds like a fantastic cliffhanger to end the story on, but visually didn't quite make it. Now the train in question that they used, I think they had like a shot of 3 different trains with these masked figures controlling, being the train driver. The trains being used was something that you would see on a light railway in the UK at a seaside town, or maybe across the pond, sort of like an amusement park or a theme park. So they weren't like your big locomotives. This was like a sort of miniature sort of version of a train with a guy's head sort of popping out of the cabin. So, and then they speed up the video, the film, to make it seem like the train is going 100 miles an hour. If I was to remake that cliffhanger, I would have basically used some stock footage of a proper steam locomotive, huge locomotive, and then sort of cut away for ending in going into part 3, where basically the Doctor realizes this is illusion. You know, he's got to get his mind together. You know, this is all an illusion. It's he should deny this reality. So, like I said, on paper this should have been fantastic, but visually, sadly, it just didn't hit the mark. I showed this cliffhanger to my fiance recently, and she just rolled her eyes. So sadly, this is a bad cliffhanger. However, the cliffhanger to part 3 of The Deadly Assassin, well, that's totally different. For we have the Fourth Doctor doing battle with the assassin, the real assassin, in the swamp. And basically, the cliffhanger ends with the assassin drowning the Doctor, pushing his head under the water, forcing him to drown, shouting, "You're finished, Doctor, you're finished." And the final shot that you see is the Doctor underwater, eyes closed, basically thinking that he's drowned. When that cliffhanger first aired back in November 1976, it drew quite a lot of criticism, especially from Mary Whitehouse, who was, amongst other things, a campaigner against violence on television. Apparently, even though she admitted she never actually saw the episode or the cliffhanger, she found that the idea of that cliffhanger was far too scary for children, and so much so that the BBC apologised and re-edited that ending when it was repeated in 1977, which you can watch on BritBox, where the new edited version was basically the assassin. You just see the face of the assassin holding the Doctor whilst he's saying you're finished. So you don't really see the Doctor underwater until part 4. So yeah, a lot of controversy with that particular cliffhanger. I'm not going to go into the debate whether that was too violent or not, but you can't deny that this was a very memorable cliffhanger. And I'm glad that we've got both versions, that you can choose which one that you want to watch or what you prefer. But again, let me know in the comments, especially about this cliffhanger, what your thoughts when you first watched it. But for me, I'm going to give this a good cliffhanger. Going back to the modern era of Doctor Who now, I wanted to talk about the first cliffhanger that was seen in Series 1 of Modern Doctor Who, which was the ending of Aliens of London going into World War III. In true traditional Doctor Who fashion, we had the triple danger of our heroes. So we had Rose Tyler with Harriet Jones, MP for Flydale North, being trapped in a building within 10 Downing Street with a particular nasty person. And also we had Jackie Tyler stuck in her flat with a supposed policeman. And we also had the Ninth Doctor also trapped in another part of the building on 10 Downing Street with the acting Prime Minister and Ministry of Defence. Now, the big reveal was that they weren't actual official figureheads. They were an alien race known as the Sylvines. So we had the big reveal with them unzipping their heads and pulling down their skin to reveal the green alien from within. I feel that the Sylvines get a lot of flack in the Whoniverse, but I honestly felt that that reveal was really good. The CGI still looks quite good now, but the practical effects of the monster and the costumes do hold up some 18 years later. Again, this is something that's bringing something back into Doctor Who. This is for a new pair of eyes for the modern era Doctor Who, with a new generation watching this show who have never even heard of Doctor Who before. So obviously we established the characters, the TARDIS, and now we're bringing back the classic cliffhangers, something that was missing from those first few episodes of modern Doctor Who, with it being just standalone 45-minute episodes. But now we got the cliffhanger back. And yeah, I thought it did a really serviceable job. Is it the best cliffhanger in the entire history of Doctor Who? Probably not. And obviously in that first series of Doctor Who, we got bigger and better cliffhangers to come, particularly Are You My Mummy? In The Empty Child the Doctor Dances, and of course the Doctor Says No against the Daleks in Bad Wolf and The Parting of the Ways. But like I said, this cliffhanger, the first from the modern era of Doctor Who, definitely served a purpose. I remember when it first broadcast, and I was speaking to a younger child about it, and I pretended to unzip my head, and yeah, that freaked that child out in a very fun way. So like I said, it's definitely served a purpose, and for me, I'm going to give this a good cliffhanger. And finally, for volume 3, I'm going to talk about one of my personal favourite cliffhangers of all time in the entire history of Doctor Who, and that's got to be part 3 of the 5th Doctor story, The Case of Andrazani. In case you don't know this cliffhanger, the 5th Doctor has hijacked a spaceship as he wants to return to Andrazani Major, where Peri, his friend and companion, is, to rescue her, as they are both slowly dying from this virus known as spectrotoxemia. The Doctor has put the ship onto a crash landing course onto the planet, whilst a gunrunner called Stotzi is trying to get into the pilot control room to stop the Doctor from basically killing them all. But yeah, the Doctor is in a sort of, he's going out in a blaze of glory on this cliffhanger. You know, even being held at more or less at gunpoint by Stotzi is not stopping him. His mission, in his mind, he wants to save his friend Peri, who at the time in sort of visual Doctor Who, we've only barely known her. She was introduced in the previous story, The Planet of Fire, so we only known her for about 2-3 episodes at this point, but we know that he's good at heart and he needs to rescue his friend. You know, he owes that to Peri, even though they barely know each other. And rewatching this cliffhanger, is it me, or when he's sort of coming round, when he's sort of heading towards the planet, you see the view screen, but there's kind of like this weird fading effect, as if the Doctor is holding back his regeneration. Like I said, he is dying of spectrotoxemia. So is it, I don't know. It just, for me, when I rewatched it quite recently, it looked like to me he was holding back on regenerating because he needs to go back and save his friend. Let me know in the comments, but it's just so dramatic from both Peter Davison and Stotzi. Sorry, I can't remember the actor's name at this juncture, but you know, Stotzi saying, "I'll kill you if you crash land," and basically the 5th Doctor's final line is, "You see, you can't stop me now." He is hell-bent on getting to that planet one way or another, and he's sort of, the camera slowly does a close-up shot of the 5th Doctor's face, knowing that he's going to smash into the planet at any moment. And yeah, I defy anyone who doesn't want to, you know, fast forward the credits to head straight to part 4 of the Case of Andrazani. Like I said, this is probably one of my personal favourites, probably one of the best of the bests. It's an absolute fantastic cliffhanger. Let me know in the comments below about all the cliffhangers I talked about in this video. Did you agree or disagree with my opinions? And what is your favourite or least favourite cliffhanger from the near 60-year history of Doctor Who? Next time on Timey Wimey Review, I'll be reviewing the 10th Doctor episode, Gridlock. Until then, thank you very much for watching. I've really enjoyed rewatching these cliffhangers for this video, so I hope you've enjoyed this video too. Please like, share and subscribe. Hit the cloister bell for more notifications. Come say hello and follow me on Twitter at ReviewTimey, and do check out my other fantastic Doctor Who content on the Timey Wimey Review TikTok page and right here on the Timey Wimey Review YouTube channel. And as a good doctor once said, excuse me, do you mind not farting when I'm saving the world?